Good morning, everyone. My name is Julia. I'm the Adult Program Coordinator for the A.C. Hunter Public Library, and I'm really thrilled today to be welcoming Chief Mizelle Joe and Sheila O'Neill, the authors of My Indian. It's a brand new book that has just come out, and we're really thrilled to have it on our shelves. And we're just going to have a little chat and a conversation today, and maybe if we're lucky, we'll have a couple of readings from the book. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
Oh, we're really thrilled. And like I said, the book wasn't long on the shelf. It's already out in circulation and people are checking it out hand over fist. So it's a very timely book.
Good. That's great.
Yeah, no, I'm always really happy when I can report to authors that your book is going off the shelves like crazy. Yes. So I had a little question. Could you give me a little bit of information on your name?
My name is Mizelle, and it's pronounced that way, Mizelle. It's a short spelling, but it's a longer sounding name. The language is such a complicated one. So the hyphen after the high simply means that you stretch the name out longer than if you say it too quick. It's Mizelle, or measles, or measles, or so. It's Mizelle. I've been called a lot of names, but translation for my name is come from my Christian name, Michael. So the translation is Mizelle.
So the character in your book is Sylvester Joe.
Yes.
And so his name is Sylvester and his last name is Joe. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
So are you any relation to him?
Well, there's no guarantee that I'm somewhere along the way. I would imagine that I am, but on both sides of my family, there was a Joe. My grandmother on my mom's side was a Hanny Joe, and I have Joes on my father's side too as well. Two different sets of Joes. Like one came from Nova Scotia, the other one was here. So it's somewhere along the way I'm related to Sylvester Joe 200 years ago, somewhere along the way.
Oh, so it was kind of like it was meant for you to write this story.
Well, I would think so, yes. And I think also at the same time, I got tired of arguing with some of the scholars that said it wasn't a Sylvester Joe, it was a Joe Sylvester. Even though we all know the Sylvester came from our community and his name was Sylvester Joe, because Europeans have a way of taking your last name and switching it around. And so it became easier to say Joe than to say Sylvester. And that's still around today. I get it all the time. People remember the Joe part, but not the Mizelle.
So Sheila, would you be able to tell me a little bit how this collaboration came about?
Okay.
Would you call
This
it
is funnier than the
collaboration?
story, by the way. This is funnier than the book itself.
Oh, good. I love a good funny story.
Well, I was at Powwow in Conne River in July of 2017, and while I was there, Chief said to me, would you be interested in working on a small project with me? And I said, sure. He said, well, just stop by the house and we'll talk about it. So I was at Powwow. I think I stopped at the store and got what I would call a scribbler, dug a pen out, and we went and sat on Chief's back deck at his home. And he said, I've got this idea for a story I want to write. And I said, well, tell me about it. And I started writing. And as I was writing, I realized he was giving me the entire outline, start to finish. And I was, well, we've got the outline. He said he's been carrying this story for a long time. So I agreed then that we would work on it. And so we started in July of 2017, and we submitted the final manuscript to Breakwater in August of 2020.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So where's the funny part?
Can I tell that story?
By all means.
I'm going to great. Whoever tells the story gets their version of it.
Oh, excellent. Yes.
So as you know, I live here in St. John's, and Chief is in Mabagat First Nation in Conne River. So sometimes we were able to connect. If Chief's in town for work, we would we take a bit of time to work on the book together. And sometimes I'd go to Con River, and Chief and Carlita would put me up in their home, and we'd work and on the book. But it was getting close to crunch time, and we were in the edits stage, and our editor with Breakwater had sent us a list of questions. So I will share with you that Chief is a huge Coronation Street fan. And I will tell you that I work on WebEx all day for a living. And so what that means is that we had to wait until Coronation Street was over to work together in the evenings.
And rightly so. That's important.
Right?
That's like,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've been on screen all day, so I'm a bit screened out. So we're going through the list of questions that Breakwater wanted us to get back to them with. And one of them was this paragraph. It could be interpreted as A or B. Which is it? Now, I knew the answer, but this is a collaboration, as he said. So I said, okay, Chief, looking at this now, Breakwater says, our wonderful editor Breakwater says, this could be interpreted as A or B. Which is it? So the answer is A or B, right?
no,
Storytellers. So Chief
there's
starts.
always a C.
Well, actually, no, it was A or B, but getting to the point. See, Chief being a storyteller, and that's very true with Indigenous people, I'm probably true to that at the moment. But anyway, he said, well, Sheila, going back in time, and so he started. And he's giving the whole history, the whole teaching, the whole lesson. At one point, he switches to Mi'kmaq, and he's speaking Mi'kmaq. I know. And I'm sitting here, and I'm thinking, oh my God, people would pay thousands of dollars for this experience I'm having here right now. But apparently, after 8:30 at night, and after a long day in front of a screen, my face was not communicating what my brain was thinking, and I got called out on it.
I can't tell you what I saw on her face. It wouldn't be right.
That would be right. You wouldn't be a gentleman then. Yes. Oh, that's an awesome story. Yes.
Lots of laughter and lots of mini arguments, but yeah, it all worked out, I think.
Well, that's a good sign of an excellent friendship.
Mm.
Yeah, but you got to keep in mind, I work all day through the same type of medium too as well. Ever since COVID came in, so my break every evening is half an hour of Coronation Street. Well, I will not be interrupted by anything or anyone for that half an hour.
Everything stops for Coronation Street. So, Chief Joe, would you feel up to doing a little reading for us now?
Yeah, I guess so. You know, I looked through this morning, and I'm not a great reader. I'm going back to my school days when I was afraid to read, but there's a part in there I think that's important. It's just a short little chapter, and in Cormac's journal, he tried to shame Sylvester in doing what he wanted him to do. And this is chapter 15 on page 84. He said, by now we're more than 2 moons into our journey, and Cormac was getting angry. After all this time, we have not seen a trace of the Biotic. Look here, my Indian. It has been 5 weeks since we left the East Coast, and we're halfway to St. George's Bay. On top of this, what would add to his frustration was that I wanted to convince Cormac to stop our journey and come to Maribugik, as I feared we would be overtaken by winter before reaching the West Coast. Cormac had been through his own lack of knowledge and preparation, suffering from the effects of the changing weather and having constantly wet feet. I merely wanted him to understand my reasoning for staying in Maribugik during the winter, and that my fear was that Cormac would take ill, or worse, appear that should something happen to Cormac, the white man's government would place the blame on me. Cormac persisted, offering me trinkets and promised of taking me with him to Spain or Portugal. He also tried to shame me for my concern over his well-being. He accused me of threatening to leave him alone in the country to finish the journey alone. Nian al Glacio, I said, which means my white man. I should explain that because Cormac referred to Sylvester as my Indian. So in retaliation, Sylvester referred to him as my white man, but not telling him what he meant. I promise you I would make this journey, and I keep my promise. I had given Cormac my word. When we set out, I made Cormac promise that I would help him complete this journey. Cormac told me he no longer had trust in my ability to perform the task they had given me. Since then, there was no sign of in this. In his frustration, he tried to make me feel inferior to him. Knowledge and strength and courage. Cormac looked at me in his anger, accusing me again of not being able to rise up to the task. I yelled to his wish and continued. I would give Cormac what he wanted and continue the journey westward.
A remarkable feat of historical fiction. So I love a good historical fiction. You know, it's not necessarily a true story, but it's based on true events.
Well, Cormac's journal's been around for 200 years, of course, and so it's just a matter of reading that journal to get a description of what their journey was like. But growing up on land and traveling some of that land, I already knew what they were faced with. That's right in our backyard. But the hardest part of this journey was we couldn't write a true story of Sylvester Joe because we didn't know absolutely nothing about him. We did some research. We got money to do research to try and find Sylvester Joe. But in the end, we decided that the only way to do this was do an historical fiction, and we had to make Sylvester Joe come alive through a marriage ceremony in the beginning of the book. And so that's where Sylvester Joe came from. I grew up on the land in Maui-Boquet and then went on to parts of Nova Scotia. And if you know anything about my life, part of that story is about my own life and my own journey. Because I would pick parts of it and then inject it into the writing of Sylvester Joe. So I left there when I was 16 years old, and like Sylvester, I went exploring to Nova Scotia and Cape Breton to meet with other Mi'kmaq people. And so that part of it is probably intertwined with my own journey, my own life.
And
so
you could probably
we created a person.
So Sheila,
Mhm.
how do you feel about doing a reading for us?
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to read from chapter 12, Bear Fat Medicine and Savages. And I'm going to start partway through the chapter. As we walked along that day and for many days after, we saw such beauty in the land around us. We crossed large bogs. Sometimes those bogs surrounded a lake. We had to walk around the lakes because they blocked our journey westward. We traveled to higher ground whenever possible to avoid the many traps of dense forest, large bogs, and lakes. Many times throughout the days ahead, Cormac wrote in his journal, as he told me it was called. When I asked Cormac what he was writing about, he replied, "I'm drawing pictures of the plants on the land that we walk over so there will be a record for other people to follow in our footsteps." I said to Cormac, "I know it will happen someday, but today I pray to the great ones that this will not happen for many years to come. The land is sacred. It gives life to our people. I can only pray that this land will always be the same as it is today." But I knew in my heart and soul that our brothers and sisters were being driven from their hunting and fishing grounds with the coming of the white man. Every evening just before sunset, we would stop to make camp. It was the same every day. Cormac would find a dry place to sit down while I went to find wood and water to make fire and tea. While Cormac wrote in his journal, I found spruce boughs for us to sleep on so that we would be comfortable with our feet to the fire. One evening after we had eaten, Cormac removed his skin boots and said that his feet were hurting. I offered him some of my bear fat for his feet, but he refused. "I have my own medicine, Indian," was his response to me. "I don't believe in your medicines and your bear fat." I sat by the fire and removed my own skin boots and stockings. I took my bear fat from my bundle and I rubbed it onto the bottoms of my feet. Cormac looked at me and said, "Do your feet hurt?" "No," I said. "I put bear fat on my feet every day to keep them from hurting." That night, while Cormac was comfortably asleep, I crept out of the camp and walked to a hill about a mile away to see if I could spot a fire or some other sign that there was a camp nearby. I saw nothing. When I arrived back in camp, Cormac awakened. "Where you been, Indian?" he asked. "I was just checking out the area." At noon the next day, I shot a black duck, and while I roasted it over the fire, Cormac wrote in his journal. He explained, "This writing I'm doing is telling a story about our walk across Newfoundland. For anyone who wants to follow this journey, they will see a map. I have drawings and writings about our trip, and this will be a map for the people to follow."
I love that. I love that his bear fat. It just, I mean, I don't
Want to
know.
see some?
Oh, yeah. Oh, cool.
Yeah. It's
So-
our bear guts.
So what do you use it for? I mean, do you use it for medicine?
I use it on my hand drum. Because it's made of hide. Just putting a bit of bear fat on it from time to time keeps the hide from going dry.
Oh, that's perfect. I read that you are a drum carrier.
Yes,
That's a huge honor, isn't it?
it is. It's an honor and a responsibility.
That's so amazing. I'm learning so much stuff there. So I am one of the things that I had read about your book, that it was a way for Sylvester Joe to reclaim his name, and I think that sounds like a very beautiful thing, to be able to give him life again and introduce him to a new generation of people who may not have known his story.
No, I mean, according to the scholars, particularly Ingeborg Marshall, who've always claimed that it's not Sylvester Joe, it's Joe Sylvester. Even at the time when Park Canada wanted to do a plaque recognizing Sylvester as a historic figure in Newfoundland, and she still claimed it was not Sylvester Joe, but Joe Sylvester. So when Parks Canada called me, I said, I could only tell you my truth. And if you want to believe Ingeborg Marshall's truth, then by all means, use the plaque in their name, but we don't want it in our community. So eventually they decided to use Sylvester Joe. But as government officials always do, they found a way to insert her portion of it too as well, two names.
So it says here in what I was reading that you are the spiritual chief of the Micmac of Newfoundland. So what does that entail? What does that mean?
I'm not the spiritual. That somebody stuck two things on me years ago and it's still being used. One was that I have a seat at the United Nations, which is totally untrue. What happened, I went to New York. I went to New York. I met with Aboriginal people that do have a seat at the United Nations, and it was offered if I needed to use that seat at times, I could have it with their blessings. But I
that's
don't
nice.
have a seat. I don't have a seat at the United Nations. And then somewhere along the way, because I had put together two evening conferences in Newfoundland. One was in St. John's, one was in Mariboquet. That was about 25 years ago. And somewhere along the way, somebody decided I must be the spiritual healer of Mi'kmaq people of Newfoundland. And that's where that come from. And I keep telling them I'm not the spiritual leader.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Because I was like, what does that mean? What is that?
yeah.
I looked around trying to figure out what it was, and I couldn't figure out what it was. So I thought, I'll just ask him.
Chief Joe, I think there are many who would disagree with that, whether you feel you have acquired that title or not. I hear it with great pride from well, I'll say me too, but from other people.
Well, I do sweat ceremonies and talking ceremonies and all those types of things, but it don't make me the spiritual leader for all of Newfoundland.
Well, this has been a lovely chat with you guys today. I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to spend some time with us. The library loves you. I just want to let you know. And your book is not on the shelves at all because they're all checked out.
It's good to know.
Yeah, and hopefully I'll be able to get a copy at some point, and I can't wait to read it. But the story, you guys are a wonderful partnership. So before we leave, I got to ask another question. Are you planning on writing any more books together?
Absolutely.
Yay! Awesome! Yay!
We're actually writing the sequel to My Indian, but we don't have a title yet, but it's going to answer the question, what happened to Sylvester after he parted with Cormac in 1822, and when he resurfaced in 1828, when Cormac asked him to guide him to Red Indian Lake that was the point when Cormac took the skulls back to Scotland for study, the same skulls of Demastowit and Nonasabasut that Chief repatriated in 2020. So Cormac refused, but there's that gap of time. And so we've got the outline and the first chapter. So
that's wonderful. Well, I tell you, we look forward to it, and hopefully we'll be able to have a chat with you in person next time.